It's Brad from Headbangers. Unfortunately, Nathan can't be in this episode due to personal reasons, but I had a great chat with Jon from the Noise Dosage Media. He's got a new documentary out, and it's called Between Exultation and Aggression. It's a fantastic piece. It really indicates exactly what the metal community is all about. Features some many great interviewees, such as Barney from Napalm Death. You've got Ryan West from Municipal Waste. We also talk about aspects of filmmaking. We talk about some of the funniest gig stories. And then we also get into loads of random shit, as you learn to expect from the Headbangers. Really hope that you enjoy this episode, something a little different, and give the documentary some love. See you in the episode. Welcome back to the Headbangers podcast. I'm your host, Brad. Unfortunately, Nathan can't be here today for personal reasons, but here we are. We're joined by the Noise Media. How are you doing, man, to start off with?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me a part of your podcast, Bradley.
No, it's a pleasure, man. I want to start off with, like, it's always our little icebreaker question. What's your funniest gig and tour story? If you've been to a gig, you've been on a tour. What's the one thing that sticks out to you? I know that you've been to a lot of shows because I've seen loads of that footage in that documentary. So go on, you must have one thing that sticks out.
One thing that sticks out. There's this band called Blood Feast. They came to play a show at the Bug Jar, I don't know, 3 years ago. And it was just a wild night. The shows always end at like 2 a.m. Anyway, it was during college. I was going to college, and I was out all night. But the one thing I remember was there was like this fake mummy or like zombie head that was it just somehow ended up on the stage, and then everybody just started throwing it around at each other. It was just it was just a really silly moment. But yeah, that's what comes to mind right away. Just seeing it at the end of the show, just in like shambles. That was really funny.
Was that like a part of the stage prop, or was it something that someone just brought into the crowd?
Dude, that's the funniest part about it. I just don't even know how it got like into the show. It was not a prop. It was not a part of the show or anything. Like, just ended up there.
All about
What about you?
Damn. It's honestly quite hard to say. I'm trying to like wrap my brain. Oh, come on. So there's a we've mentioned it on the podcast before, but it's worth saying. So we've got a festival called Bloodstock in the UK, and it's like a yearly thing that we always go to. We've got Download Festival, but like Bloodstock is the one that you want to go if you like extreme metal. And we have a friend, and he's always like getting into some crazy shit. Like, you'll just like see him 1 minute, and next minute he's just like jumping into a bin or just doing something crazy. So this time, it was like 2 years ago now. And him and his friend, our mate Griff, they thought they'd try and reenact the Dirty Dancing scene when he lifted them up in the air. And bearing in mind, so Griff's quite a bigger lad than our mate Caleb. Caleb's quite small. So he lifted him up in the air, but I think he lost balance. Obviously, we were pretty drunk, and like he like fell onto him, but like you could hear the his back to break. Like you could hear the moment where the snap happens, and he was just like. He was pretty drunk, so like, he didn't really feel it, but then the next day he was just like completely just out of it. He managed to withstand the whole weekend, but yeah, we've got video footage of it, thankfully, but yeah, I don't think he'll be doing that again.
Oh man, that sounds
horrible.
horrible.
Been in Mosh retirement since.
Ooh, I'm gonna say one more just because like that question is. I've had so many memories, but there was one recently. Midnight. I saw Midnight recently at like a small venue, and it was just hilarious because people were jumping off the PA, like above the PA into the crowd, like 10 foot, 15 foot in the air, like that. That to me is another extreme. Like, you don't really see that a lot other than like punk shows,
Not anymore, at least, as well. Like, nowadays, like, I guess like the security is so tight that you don't see some of this crazy stuff happening. But when you look at like footage of in the 80s, like even like Slayer shows and stuff like that, like people are doing crazy stuff like that. But it's almost refreshing to see that happening now. I mean, as long as you do it safely and you know what you're doing, but not always the case.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious. That's a great question to ask because everybody has a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've had some good ones. We've noticed that there's a trend. So at least with like a lot of the bands we spoke to, there's always a story of one of them like pissing or shitting themselves at some point. And I was just like, it's always been something that I've thought about. Like, you know, you're on tour for like weeks and weeks on end, like, and you're eating shitty food. Like, there's got to be something that's gonna happen. And yeah, there is. I won't name them, but you know.
And it always ends with that, you know.
Yeah. Their stories are immortalized now on the internet. So
that's hilarious.
So yeah, obviously I want to get into your documentary. Like, you know, it must be like a pretty big success for you. I mean, I've seen the views, you've got like 47k views. I mean, I just imagine besides the views anyway, it must have been an amazing experience, like filming it all, getting to speak to what I imagine are some of your heroes as well. My main question with it to start off with is just, you know, the message that you wanted to portray throughout that when you first started, you know, pen to paper, writing down the idea. Like, do you feel like you've achieved that now?
Well, okay, so the funny thing is there was never any moment where I sat down with a pen or a pencil before. Literally, we came up with this. Me and my friend Victor went out to a show in Ohio to go see. It was like Sanguisuga Bog, 200 stab wounds. And anyway, literally, it was like a 3-hour drive. And we came up with the concept of the documentary on the way there. So I got to give a lot of props to him because like he gave me a lot of good ideas and, you know, advice on what not to bring up, you know.
Yeah.
But as for like the views and stuff, just in general, the whole thing was a grateful experience because I don't know, I got to see the scene as a whole. I mean, just in general, like the support from the fans, like the people that actually watched it, to the bands and, you know, the artists that were like, hey man, let's do it, you know. It was yeah, I don't know, there's no other experience like it that I've had with any type of music endeavor or project, you know.
I'd say it's pretty successful though. I mean, like, you know, you've got to have some pretty big dogs, you know, speaking in that, and like, you know, all of it just seemed like fun. I mean, you got to go to all these shows and, you know, take some amazing footage. Obviously for me, it's quite inspiring as well because I'm also like into filmmaking as much as I'm into metal.
That's awesome.
So like, how did you go from like, you know, having that conversation with your mate to like, you know, actually producing it? Like, what was the story behind that, and how did you arrange everything as well?
I mean, I kind of got started into music as a guitar player, but off of that, I went to podcasting, exactly what you do. I basically started my podcast during the pandemic. I built a lot of friendships and connections there. Like I was doing like literally 1 every 3 days, like 2 to 3 a week. So amazing. I was just gaining a lot of momentum with that, you know, learning the industry and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, the process in and of itself was quite smooth, like getting a hold of people. But the biggest challenge for me was I didn't know how to filmmake. I didn't know anything about video before I started doing it.
So the filmmaking came after the fact then. So you were like into metal, but like, you know, you didn't really consider doing a documentary until obviously you had that idea. Okay.
Well, I mean, I did photography for about 2 to 3 years at just like local gigs and stuff. But my camera was also always like really, like it was very bad. So like I decided to like upgrade and just go for it and try something new. But it really sparked off with Nunslaughter. I don't know if you know Don, the singer. He really like inspired me a lot to do it because he was such a nice dude. Like the whole experience of just like, hey, you just did a killer show. Let's talk about, you know, this thing that you're really into afterwards. And then let me film it. You know, like it was just like, I don't know, it was just really cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, did you like pick up like a lot of things then? Like, I imagine that learning process, you know, going into that must have been a lot. Like, do you feel like now that it's come out of it, it's all, you know, post-production's done, it's wrapped, it's up there for the world to see. Like, do you feel like you've come out of it like with a lot more like knowledge about the whole thing then? Like, do you feel like you can confidently like, yeah, I could nail the next one now?
Yeah, and I feel without a doubt, because I mean, a lot of I was just saying the other day, like there was a lot of footage that people didn't see because it was just it was like the audio was bad, the video was bad, like it was overexposed, like there was things that were unusable, like uh so the whole learning curve of doing that film was what really pushed me to finish it, man, because I don't think a lot of the artsy things that I've done in the past, like they just don't get finished. Like they just don't get done.
Yeah, I feel that, man.
But yeah, I'm working on 2 documentaries right now, new ones. Yeah, I can't wait to.
I was going to get into that actually, yeah, because I want to know what you're cooking up next, but we'll get to that towards the end. I want to, yeah, because obviously, like when I did university, I did like digital media, so I did like a bit of filmmaking as like part of my projects. I did do a metal documentary, and what you said then does resonate with me. Like, there's so many things that I suppose are out of your control as well. Like, you'll go to do a bit of a shoot or an interview, and then something will go wrong out of your control just because of like overexposure, the noise is too loud, maybe the sound checking is just like a bit too much. Like, but I think that's part of the fun though, is that you've got to kind of problem solve a bit, and even if like something goes wrong, like you'll find a way around it, you'll organize something else, or I think that's always part of it. But I think especially like I say with me as well, I'll think of projects and I won't finish them because of a hurdle. But I think just getting out there and doing it, just like you've done with that documentary, is the best thing to do, because you learn to problem solve.
Yeah, and without a doubt, I mean, in the description of the film, another thing I wanted to do is just to inspire like people like to get involved, because like you don't have to be just like a guitar player or a vocalist to be a part of the community, man. Like you could write scenes, you could do what you're doing. Like there's a lot of things that in general just like helps out the whole thing of just growing, because I don't know, there's just so many elements to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think like what your documentary encapsulates so well is the community. Like, you talk about the evolution of the music, you talk about how people got into it. And it's like almost like, multiple origin stories coming together, like to this big Avengers type thing. We all come together, we all contribute a certain part of it. And it's like one big dysfunctional family by the end. And I think that, you've got people from all across different genres. You've got Cattle Decap, you've got Nuclear Assault. Like, you've got some smaller bands in there, but we all share the same sort of love and passion. And I think it's good. And there's not too many like extreme metal documentaries out there. You'd think that there is, but there's not. So I think it's why yours is probably being quite critically acclaimed as well. And I think you've spread a nice message with it too.
And I think that's another thing I want to bring up too, is the fact that I made mine because I was like, like there hasn't been a documentary about metal in a couple of years, and especially what I was trying to do, because I wanted to document the newer bands. I feel like a lot of documentaries, it documents the past, the stuff that
legacy bands and stuff like that.
Legacy bands. And I wanted to cover the legacy bands and all that, but at the same time I was like, well, what's going on in the future, like what can we look forward to?
People like Ben from Shadow of Intent. I thought that's nice that you included people like him, because to me, I think Shadow of Intent are one of the the best bands about at the moment that are really changing the sound. And I think it's good to include them with bands like Napalm Death. So I think you've got a good variety of people in there.
Yeah, and it was really cool because I think just in general too, one of the questions was like, just the typical like, what got you into metal? But those legacy bands were brought up by the newer bands.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it was like for example, like Ben Durr from Shadow of Intent brought up the fact on how Travis made such an impact on him. and now he's carrying the torch for, bands, the younger ones,
Yeah, it's like a domino effect, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't know. So you said that you're a filmmaker, huh? Like you do film.
Yeah.
That's
a
rad.
loose term. Like I feel like I have to do it quite regularly to become one. But I'm trying to plan around with like scripts and stuff at the moment and just see. I'm just like trying to think of ideas. I'll get to it. But I've done like a short film in the past. I've done like little documentaries at uni as well. But like, it's very, very small stuff. I mainly do like music videos. So that's like been my thing for the last few years.
That's cool.
But yeah, I want to get back into doing short films and documentaries there because I think that's where my passion truly lies. Because I like
That's
stuff with
awesome.
narrative and everything like that. So I love watching, like your documentary and shit like that because it's truly inspiring.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for example, you said you're from the UK, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know much about the UK other than that there's an awesome festival down there. That's you know what I mean?
Oh
Um,
yeah. No, I would
but
honestly recommend, yeah. If you're ever in the UK, you have to go to Bloodstock. It's the place to
I
be.
I think that there's a few festivals I've wanted to go to in my lifetime, and Bloodstock has definitely been one. Like what's that one with Kirby? Oh, I'm blanking on this one. It's not in the UK. It's like that grind festival.
Right, festival. I think I know which one you're talking about, but I can't remember where it is or what it's called.
Oh man, I'm gonna remember like right at the end of this. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll brainstorm on that one. So what festivals do you go? Do you go to like much festivals then where you are?
uh the two I went to, so before the documentary, I didn't really travel a lot. Um, but this year I went to Maryland Death Fest, and I went
That's
to
definitely on the list. That's like the one, isn't it?
that was it, and then
For sure.
Psycho Las Vegas I just went to a few months ago, which was awesome.
Yeah, because I see all these posters and stuff because obviously I look at all the band pages and I do see stuff like Psycho Las Vegas and Maryland Death Fest. I'm just like, you lucky bastards! Can't believe you got
Yeah,
this.
and I would recommend those two. I mean, I'm not a good critic because I haven't went to a lot, but Psycho Las Vegas is cool because literally I saw bands like play and then jump in a pool afterwards. So like people moshing in a pool.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Like, and then Maryland is just like there's really not much to say about that one other than it's great.
For sure. I want to ask that was it expensive to like you obviously you went to so many you must have gone to quite a lot of shows like during the time of filming this to get all that footage and to do all these interviews, like did it cost a lot to like just do all of that? I mean obviously it's worth it in the end, but like
Um, I will say that the bands helped. Like I didn't pay for admission tickets. Generally,
okay,
like
yeah,
if you're a photographer or video guy, you're like, hey, give me a pass in. So they help that way. But I mean, at the end of the day, I was going to go to those shows.
yeah.
Like,
So, oh no, I've got to go do it.
but that is one thing, man. Like there always is that barrier, the financial aspect of doing a documentary film because fucking you got to travel, like you got to, and then when the footage doesn't turn out good, you got to travel and do it again.
Yeah, yeah, that is a thing. Was it like, so what was like the other challenges then? So you mentioned like, you might have a time where the interview didn't go great, because of overexposure or something like that. Was there any other challenges that came up that like would you class as like the biggest thing that happened during the journey?
Ooh, challenges. Um, Challenges. Yeah, yeah. There's a few of them. I would say the biggest challenge with that film for me was the fact that I had so much footage. Like, in the fact that I wasn't, it was my first take at a documentary, first take at video, first take at everything. It was trying to sit in front of a computer and focus and like literally be like, hey, I'm going to spend 5 hours on this. and get something accomplished.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part, like literally just the burnout of, hey, I got something cool going on here, but I'm getting burnout because I'm working on it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, like, I want to bring up two people during this. Wither Designs, his name's Matt, and Brandon, begrudgingly Benny, or Benny Bones Art. That literally, they were like the driving force for this fucking documentary.
That's good.
They're the people that did the artwork, and like all like the text and the artwork were done by them. And yeah, man, they would send me like pictures of this fucking crazy piece of art, and I would be like, bro, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So yeah, they really helped out a lot, because if it wasn't for them, man, it wouldn't have happened. No way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to have those people, when you're doing a creative project, that like they'll push you when you're burned out. Because especially because you are the director of this. So like, you would have think that, you would be the one having to always like, motivate people to get stuff done. And like, when they feel burned out, you'll be there to lift them up. But then you wouldn't expect it to always be delivered the other way. So it's good that you had them, acting as like, one driving force together, that you'd pick each other up. Because I think sometimes it's the most difficult part when you're doing a project alone as well, and there's nobody to do that for you, to give you that kind of boost. But I think it's amazing when that happens, because it just makes things so much easier.
It kind of was like, it was like universal throughout the whole project, because like Brandon, for example, he's a busy dude. He's a tattoo artist. He's a firefighter. He's a busy guy, and he would have like burnout moments where he was like, hey man, like, I'm having a little bit trouble on, dotting this specific area. It's going to take me like an extra couple weeks. And I'd be like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you're killing it on this drawing, and I know you're going to like finish it. And I would send him clips. I'd be like, hey, check this out.
That's awesome. I love that.
And it kind of, it was like a boat that was getting shot by missiles, but we just kept on putting the patches on. We're like, we're gonna finish it, dude.
No, for sure. I think like the most important thing, whether it's like doing podcasts or doing like music videos or documentaries, I think it's just like, obviously most people will do that as a side thing. They'll have like a 9 to 5 job, or they'll do something else, as their main career for the most part. And I think the best thing to do is just to remind yourself, this is my passion project. Like, this is not work. The moment you start seeing it as work, like, that's when it becomes difficult. When it happened with the podcast a few times, like, I'll be editing, I'll come back from a really hard day at work, and I'm like, this is not what I want to do right now. But I'm like, no, this is fun. We enjoy this. We like speaking to bands. Like, this is worth doing. And then I think that's how you just got to get yourself out of that hole.
Without a doubt, man. And I think that even one thing I did learn from the documentary is, even if you become, somebody said this to me, Matt from Exultation, he said, even if you become the next Cannibal Corpse, you're still, going to be financially not the best. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying Cannibal Corpse doesn't make a lot of money. I don't know anything about the financial situation, but he basically said that even being successful in the music industry, it's still tough out there, man.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's the thing. Yeah, that is the thing.
Like, I think that, like you said, I mean, the second that you start thinking about money, it's not as fun. You start looking at statistics and all that stuff, it'll drive you crazy, man. Like, don't even bother, just put out the best product you can, and just, well, not product, put out the best content or whatever out.
Yeah.
And just do you know what I mean?
No, for sure. I think, a lot of people get wrapped up in like, I'm doing this for money, or I'm doing this, to please the algorithm or something like that. And I've seen like bands do it, and it never goes well for them. Like, if you're in it for the wrong reasons, then you shouldn't probably do it at all. Like, I mean, playing extreme, let's take extreme metal, for example. If you're doing that to play extreme metal, you got to know that you're probably not going to be Post Malone or something. Like
Yeah.
it's not the way the game works, unfortunately. It's not a mass popular genre. It's very niche but very good. So just do it because you enjoy doing it for the passion, not for the money.
Oh yeah, and I remember something John from Incantational said. It was just like if there's any rules within death metal, you're doing it wrong. And that
Yeah.
always sticks in my head, not for the fact I'm in a death metal band, just the fact that like any type of artistic endeavor that you take, man, like it's just craft it how you want to and just don't worry about what the public thinks. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously take it a little bit of advice from it, but don't let it direct where you should go. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think that's the same for anything artistic. It's very easy to get bogged down with like, what you think the standards of today are. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe it's loads of people have done that before, or oh, let's not do this because this doesn't seem like a popular genre at the moment. Like you're just sort of like putting barriers up for yourself to the point where you won't end up doing anything by that time because you'll just
Yep.
like, no, there's no point. So
Oh
just,
yeah.
just go out there and do it. And if it doesn't work, I think just you'll get better each time.
Oh yeah.
Failure is a part of the process.
I was gonna say that's literally the story of this film, dude. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I failed so much. Like like that documentary behind the scenes, it was such a failure because like I was like throwing a bunch of footage away. I was like throwing like it was just like you said, man, you just gotta just keep going, man. Even if it's not
Yeah.
working, like it's gonna work eventually. Doesn't matter what it is in life.
Was there like with the interviews, was there any sort of other advice or like anything that someone said that you still think about now that like really resonated with you? I know you've mentioned a few things, but
Ooh,
like is like one that the pinnacle, like, damn, I remember that for forever.
ooh, advice. Oh, I'm trying to think here. Um, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty simple one, but it comes right to mind. Basically, Chad from Frozen Soul, he was a lovely soul to have a part of it. And basically, he said to me, he just brought up the fact that doesn't matter what you do, you know, just support as many people as you can. You know what I mean? Because like at the end of the day, like everybody starts at the bottom, man. Like,
Hmm.
and I guess what I'm trying to say is the fact that he was just like, be humble, you know, work super hard at what you do. Don't take yourself too seriously. And yeah, you'll get where you want to be. It just takes a lot of time. And yeah, there was a lot of advice in that documentary. Um, but let me come back to that one.
Yeah. I
Let's
mean,
let me,
to be fair, what he said was absolutely right. I mean, if not even just for doing music, I think that's just a good motto for life, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me come back to that one. Which is funny because there was like literally 40 minutes about advice. but but yeah. Yeah, I was
I
coming
think
back.
it's more hard than to pick like the right one when everyone's like speaking such wisdom within the metal community. Like, damn, which one's my best? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, wisdom. Yeah, we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Don't worry. So obviously, like, that's concluded now. That chapter's closed. It's there, immortalized for the world to see. What are you cooking up right now? Then are we looking at another metal documentary? Are you like straying off into different paths? Like, what's happening now?
So right now I'm doing a between Exultation and Aggression 2. So literally it's gonna be like the same exact thing, but it's obviously I'm gonna have more experience. Like
Yeah,
me as a person, I feel a lot more comfortable in what I'm doing, and now I can get a little bit more um, creative when it comes down to like, hey, like instead of all like in like really close up shots, live footage, I can go in that angle, etc.
yeah.
Um, But yeah, I'm gonna be doing a second one of that with a whole bunch of awesome bands. And I'll just name drop a few right now.
Go for it.
Nobody knows this, but so Imperial Triumphant's a part of the next one.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
That'll be good.
and Full of Hell. I'll give you those two.
A big fan of those bands, to be fair. I've been wanting to see Imperial Triumphant for a while, and I thought I will be seeing Full of Hell this year because they're playing another festival that's in the UK called Damnation.
Yeah. I saw that they're going on tour. With Sam Slickerbog, I think.
Yeah, I
Something
think
like
I
that.
saw that.
Something like that. And then the other one is actually the one that I'm focusing more on right now. It's a documentary on the local scene about where I'm from.
That's nice.
So I'm from Buffalo and Rochester, New York. Basically, I've been in that scene for, I don't know, 5-6 years, and I'm just meeting up with a whole bunch of my friends, and I'm bringing my camera, and we're gonna see what happens.
That's dope. I think like that should be really cool because I think obviously where you're from, like there's a lot of different influences that can come into that. Like that you probably know it by like the back of your hand, like the scene, the bands, the heads that
Yeah,
are there. So like I think when like a film or any sort of music is like that personal, I think it always becomes out like the best it can be.
yeah. I think that it's gonna be really fun. I mean, it has been fun. I've already been filming. I have already 7 or 8 interviews done for it, but
Nice.
it's gonna be cool. I really can't wait to release something that just encapsulates all of my friends in one documentary. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it, man. I want to ask, like, when you like produce something like that, like, with the documentary, obviously by the end you had this story, you had this structure for it, the evolution, the origins, like everything like that. When you're doing it, like, was that the afterthought? Did that come afterwards? Like, how things would be, and you're like, right, when you're in the editing process, like, this is how it's structured, like ABC.
Yeah,
Or is it
yeah,
something that like you thought about, like, this is going to be the structure? I know it's going to be this, and this is how it's going to be.
yeah. I learned very quickly that you need structure, especially in a documentary.
Mhm.
You need some type of, at least I noticed this recently, is you have to have uh, some type of story that's either a conflict or something that is like the viewer's going to take something from it,
Yeah.
um so yeah, I'll come up with like 10 bullet points, questions, and I just go from there. But I don't just ask them that. Like, for example, if somebody comes to me, well, I come to them with my camera, I'm like, hey, let's talk about this, and that thing doesn't resonate, I'll find that one thing throughout the 10 questions, and I'll just pick that to death, and I'll
Yeah.
use that footage, because the hardest part with documentaries is the fact of getting the same answer, the same,
Yeah.
the same, yeah, same answer, because you don't want
I think
that the whole film.
no, absolutely. I think the difference obviously between like a documentary and a short film, for example, is like with a short film, like you have complete creative control over how the conflict will go or how you want the story to be structured completely. Like when you do interviews, like you have no idea what they're gonna say. You're not gonna give them the script and say, please just say this when I ask this question. Like, and
Yeah,
then if they don't come out of what you expect, and it's like it's another sort of angle. I mean, obviously you can overcome that and you can find a way to place it. But like at first, you're like, well, I don't know where the fuck's this gonna go.
yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah, without a doubt, man. Like, and that's why I like the fact that we're doing a podcast, is the fact that it's just so free flowing, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so relaxed if you make it relaxed.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of vibe that we always want. Like, we never want to be that intense, like, why do you do this? It's
Yeah,
just like it's just like hanging out. Like that's the kind of vibe that we just like to go for. I think it's
yeah,
just how you get like the best free flowing conversations, that it's less just like too structured, which I guess is, like you said, the complete opposite of doing like a film or a documentary. It's just like
right. Yeah. Film is I would say the documentary was a little bit different compared to like a podcast, in the way of you have to be a little bit more structured, but you don't want to be too structured where it's like you can predict what the person's going to say, you know, like, oh, the scene's great. There's a lot of fans here. It's awesome. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, that's like, because this is like a double-sided one here, because there's like a funny side too. But so for the first, like, do you feel like, you know, doing the podcast has like helped you, you know, carry on these interviews and do the documentary because you've got that sort of like talking point? And second, like, you know, when you're like out and about or you're just like with your friends, like, do you ever feel like you just go into podcast mode and you'll just start to ask them a question like, am I in podcast mode right now? Am I interviewing them? It's like,
I do that.
Can't separated it.
I'm glad that you said that, because yeah, some conversations I have, I'm like, why did I just ask them a question?
Yeah.
You know, but has it helped me, the podcast with the documentary and life? Yes, without a doubt. And I bet you can agree with this. And,
I can.
I was a pretty antisocial kid growing up. I kind of just, same headphones as these. I would like go into middle school and high school, pop them on, click the noise canceling, and just live in my own world. So the documentary wouldn't have happened without talking to so many people and them being so like nice to me on my podcast, without a doubt. Because like if there was a whole bunch of people saying, hey man, like, you know, you're not very good at this, that, the other thing, like, I don't know, that would have tore me up when I was younger. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
I think it really helps to build like confidence and build like conversational patterns, because obviously you're talking to people, you know, around the world, you know, every week or every, you know, few days or whatever. Like, you know, it's very daunting at first, especially if you're like a fan of the band as well and you don't want to start like fangirling out over them. So like, I think it definitely helps. I mean, you know, all throughout COVID, when you want speaking to anyone, I imagine the same for you. You're just sort of like having these conversations every single week. And I think after that, when you just go into like even normal life situations, like you find yourself feeling a bit more confident with a conversation flow. And I think that's kind of cool. The cool thing about it, but the transition between that, you know, from not feeling as confident and then flowing into that, and you feel like a lot more confident with conversation flows. I think it's like almost seamless.
That is 150% true, because there were points where I stopped doing my podcast and I dropped off. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where I was just like, hey, like, I just don't feel like talking to like my coworkers, or like, I just don't feel like talking to a lot of people. Like, I don't know. It just keeps me like, I don't know. It just makes me a happier person doing podcasts. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Even if there's like one bad podcast along the 10, like whatever, like you learn something from it, you know?
For sure. And I don't think that we've, you know, really had like that many moments where it's been, oh, it's a disaster. Like most of the time it's just because I fucked something up or Nathan's fucked something up, and like, you know, it's mainly in the post-production or something like that something goes wrong. But yeah, I think it's been like a nice sort of process, like doing it all. And I think a bit like your documentary, like, you know, I wanted to feel more integrated in the scene that I loved. And instead of just like, you know, seeing the bands, I wanted to speak to the bands. I wanted to speak to, you know, people like you that have, you know, contributing their art pieces to the metal community in terms of like video or even just other stuff, like, you know, other podcasts, you know, what they're doing. And I think it's nice that way, you know, that you can feel more in tune with the community.
Yeah, you know, I want to ask you this. Now that you say that, have you seen a band, like, have you talked to the artists and then seen them like, you know, months down the line, or like,
yeah.
Okay, how much more different does it feel when you see that band? Because yeah, I'm curious on your take on that.
Yeah, They don't feel too different. Obviously, it's like a bit of a different environment in the sense that, they're probably a bit more busy. Like you don't have like an hour to sit down with them. So, it's like a very fast conversation. I bumped into Vulvadinia, Duncan Bentley, which was really cool because obviously we got Vulvadinia on. I'm a massive fan of Vulvadinia and
Oh
so is
yeah.
Nathan. So like speaking to him, like he was super nice and he did remember us, which is nice. But yeah, he was like, I only had about 5 minutes. He was like signing t-shirts. So, we had like a quick talk and then kind of went away. And there's been a few more. I've met Paleface. After we interviewed them, because it's mainly like the shows I do in my hometown Leeds. Um, Obviously, if we interview someone a little bigger, then we're probably not going to get a chance to sit down and speak to them. But if it's like a local show, a lot of the time the band will come out afterwards and be in the signing tent or like, be in a certain section that you can just go up and talk to them for a bit. Or sometimes they'll go out and have drinks around Leeds as well, which is nice, which is where we live.
It's just funny. Like I like this
What about you?
analogy. Oh, like this analogy of just like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this dude was talking about how he would see a band and then recognize that he just had a conversation the other day about what the bass player's favorite coffee was. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't think many genres other than metal, you know, offer that. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that metal is the greatest genre ever. I'm just saying that
But it is though.
it yeah, it is. But it just seems like the people are a lot more accessible, and they're up to have those conversations.
Yeah, bar a few, I think there's less ego as opposed to other genres. Like I feel like
Yes.
they feel more on your wavelength when they're not looking down at you. They feel like more equal, especially when you speak to them. Like I think one of the funniest conversations I've had was we spoke to, well, this was me at this point, and I spoke to Thomas from Sentinels, and we were just talking about like how the spices in your cupboard just always seem to run out and you're always having to replace them. Just ridiculous shit like that. And I have no idea. That wasn't a planned question at all, but somehow we got into it. And I think that's always been my favorite part of doing the podcast is like when you just talk about random shit. Cause I think that's the biggest thing that I always wondered before I started speaking to bands is what are these guys doing outside of playing music? And you just get the wildest shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really funny now that you say that, because yeah, I'm thinking about a conversation I had with Necrobutcher about how he just likes bicycling around Norway, and yeah, I'm just like, that's awesome. Oh no, actually, he told me that he goes skiing with Fenris. That's what I was gonna say. Like,
That's awesome.
like, like skiing. But yeah, man.
What's he like? Because like obviously I'd love to speak to the Mayhem guys. They seem like quite intense, but I want to know, are they actually that intense in real life if you spoke to them?
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I wouldn't say they're intense. I mean, I talked to Necrobutcher over a pina colada in real life
Fuck
before.
off. He's not a pina colada guy. He's not a pina colada guy.
He is. If you go on my podcast, it's a picture with him and his pina colada.
I love
but no, I don't think any person that I've talked to on this podcast is intense at all. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If anything, they're like antisocial. That's about as bad as it gets with metal bands. Like,
Yeah.
there's no like, hey, don't ask me that question. Like,
Yeah, they'll give you a good reason why they won't answer it, or they'll just sort of like, friendly just say, I'm not answering that, but like not like, aggressively. But I think that's a good thing. Even if you're like nervous to ask a question, like just don't be like, it's probably
oh
gonna
no,
not go as bad as you think it is gonna. At the end of the day, they're
yeah,
just people.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you can ask them anything basically. I mean, there's been some slip ups where, I might have said the wrong thing, but they never like were like, hey, did you mean it like that? And I was like, oh, I actually didn't. I just slipped up.
Yeah.
But let me reverse this to you. I mean, like, what are your aspirations with your podcast? Are you going to do anything else other than the podcast, or what's your mission, I guess?
Yeah. I think it's like obviously we want to keep it going. We want to try like different content ideas that we're playing around with. I would like to obviously go back into filmmaking. I don't know if like a metal documentary is on the horizon at the moment. It's definitely like been in my head, I guess.
Mhm.
But like I wanna just do a short film again, personally, is my personal goal. So like I'm just thinking of ideas, and when I find one that like really resonates with me, I'll start writing it. But again, it's sort of the thing we talked about before. You like, you'll give yourself barriers, or you'll like, oh shit, like you're your own worst critic, unfortunately.
Oh,
So
oh yeah, oh yeah.
so I need to get past that barrier, and once I do and I start writing it, I'll be happy to start filming it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting back into it because I know that's like my true one passion. So yeah, I'm excited.
that's awesome, man. Short film. I'll be on the lookout. I'll be like, hey man, I'll be like your reminder. Hey man, where's the short film? Hey man.
I'll appreciate the support, to be honest.
That's funny. But yeah, I don't know if I had like a co-host or something like that. Have you ever seen Exodus Zetro's show where he does like an in-person, like a legitimate it's like a show like
I need
where
to
they
see this. I
just
haven't seen it though.
yeah, it's like a round table in like a dungeon and they just do the podcast with people, you
That's
know.
awesome.
Um, but then again, it's getting into that, crazy editing stuff and is it worth it, like
Yeah.
uh,
What do you like see yourself with the podcast then, saying like, the next few years? Like, do you have like aspirations for that or where you want to take it?
ooh, ooh. That's a tricky one. I just want to keep having fun with it. Like
It's the most
uh,
important thing.
as simple as I could say with my podcast, like I don't care about anything other than the fact that I just got to keep having fun with it to keep doing it. And I am. I mean, like I I don't know. I just was talking to you know the guitar player from Power Trip the other day,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was awesome, man. Just being able to just sit down and well, first like getting a hold of the people, and then they just like, for example, there was like an open invitation. They're like, "Hey, if you ever want to talk again, let me know." I'm like, "That is awesome."
That's why you
If
do it,
those,
right? Yeah.
if those keep coming and people are just, you know, they just enjoy being on the show, and interesting, and I keep it interesting, then I'm gonna keep doing it. Yeah, but
Oh yeah.
more guests, but
How
yeah.
did you get like, organizing these people then? Like, what was your technique to, getting some of these names on? Did you like
Um,
message them directly, or did you message the label? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'll spill it to you right now. I mean, the only thing that you got to do, man, I don't care. Doesn't matter how popular they are. There's an email.
yeah.
even if you guess, and that I know that's true because I did it with Dying Fetus. Even if you guess,
Did you really? Did you just guess the email and got it right?
I did, and that's how I
That is
got
legendary.
the drummer on the documentary. I randomly guessed. I was like, Dying Fetus, blank, 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 at Gmail.
Love
And
it.
just, yeah. I mean, I don't really like to deal with like management. I like to
Yeah.
deal direct with anybody. Like, I mean, I'll work with press where I'll say, hey, put me on the email list. And if a release comes out and they want to do interviews, I'll do it. But I don't, I guess I just like the fact of me just hitting them up randomly. Like I don't want to just be limited to their album release. I want to talk to them about whatever comes to mind that day. Um,
Yeah, I think I
so
like I like your style of just going like directly to it because I think, that's probably the best way to organize things is you go straight for the jugular, like you don't like mess around with like a sort of intermediary. Like when you can just go straight to it, I think it's just much easier for everybody. you know?
Yeah. And I will say this. I mean, like, if there's anybody on my podcast you can't get a hold of, just literally message me and I'll help you out. I mean,
I appreciate it.
I I love doing that for people because yeah, I don't know. When I first started my podcast, that was the hardest part, was trying to figure out how to get a hold of people and
Yeah.
just spending way too much time on the internet just trying to do that. When it's
No, for
not
sure.
not that complicated, you know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna out any labels or anything like that, you know. But I will say, sometimes, like when you go, like, you know, we've had like success when we've just messaged the person directly, but when we've tried with some labels, it sort of just ran a bit dry. Like they'll say, we'll organize it, everything will be fine, and they just either won't respond to you,
And it doesn't
or they'll
happen.
just like, or they'll say like, oh no, they're doing this or they're doing this. And I'm just like, it almost feels just disingenuous in a way, like they're just sort of trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, because you're like, I think that's the worst part, is you're like, okay, let me help promote your band that makes you money, because that's what a record label does. I mean,
Yeah, that's why
make
they want it, right?
they make financial benefits off of it. But you're like, okay, well, are you supporting the bands then? Because why aren't you giving them press for free? You know?
Yeah,
But I have to relocate my computer, so give me 1 second.
yeah, no worries.
Sure.
Are you like on lunch break right now? Or you're just like,
Yes, I actually am.
I love the flexibility. I feel like if I told my work, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just do a podcast for an hour, they'd be like, fuck off.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't do record labels. I just go direct, and
I respect it.
that's the way that you got to do it with any type of. I don't care if they're a super popular band or not so popular. Like, just go for it, man.
Yeah, I like that. I want to ask one last question. I want to ask, obviously we talked about your documentary, we talked about your like of metal. I want to ask, like, what are your hobbies and interests outside of that? Like, what do you get up to when you're, you know, not filming and you're not going to gigs?
Ooh, I don't want to say anything music wise then. Well, I would say I just like being like adventurous. I like to go outside and walk and ride bikes, parachuting.
I mean, that's pretty cool, to be fair.
uh, yeah, anything to do with fishing, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But what about you?
Do you have like nice scenery where you are? Do you like get to go out like nice walks? Like, there's a lot of opportunities to do that.
Yeah, and you can like kayak around here, which is super fucking cool. There's a lot of lakes in New York.
That's awesome.
But yeah, just literally just being by water makes me happy. Like,
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's me and all, I guess. how about
Yeah,
you?
I mean, sort of same here. Like, I just like going on days out to places. Like, you know, sometimes on the weekends, I'll either go with my partner or I'll go with my mates and we'll just go driving somewhere and just like, you know, just do random shit and just it's what I enjoy. Obviously, I love watching movies, even though I don't know if that counts as a hobby, but you know,
Oh, it
watching
counts as a
Netflix,
hobby.
watching TV show. Yeah,
It,
I think it
it,
counts as one.
it counts without a doubt. Yeah, horror movies too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have a
And I
favorite
think
horror movie?
Chucky.
Chucky, classic.
Yeah, nothing's scarier than that little baby with a knife, man.
Yeah, it's like a timeless classic in a way. Like, even though so much has come after it, like it still sort of cemented itself in history as being one of the best.
What's your favorite?
Ooh. It's hard to say, to be fair, but I'm like a big fan of I'm a big fan of like the like Hereditary and Midsummer, like, you know, some of the new school ones. Like, I love the classics, but I think because the genre is not become dead, but there's been a lot of like movies that are just there to, try and be the box office hit and just, plenty of jump scares and all the things you expect, which I enjoy watching. I love stupid horror films as much as I enjoy the impressive ones, but I feel like them two were like actually scary because it's sort of less reliant on jump scares and like more just like the trauma and just the way it's filmed and the atmosphere it creates. So yeah, them
Oh,
two. Oh,
oh,
boy.
oh yeah. Without a doubt, I think that the lighting is huge with any film in general. Like if you can pull off good lighting, and that goes with any type of filmmaking, you did it right, you know.
Yeah, the lighting is key.
You don't need jump scares, man. You just need a really dark light and a creepy person.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes like less is more. I like the minimalism sometimes. I think a lot of people try to strive for like this the most sort of bombastic thing they can do, but sometimes like the littlest things will just be perfect.
Oh yeah, well, 100% agree with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, John, for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. I will leave a link to the documentary so everyone should watch it in the comments. But yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed it. You should be very proud. I think you've captured exactly what the metal community is and what we stand for. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Thank you so much, buddy. Yeah, just shoot me the links or whatever, and I'll share it as much as I can.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I'll be in touch. We'll keep in touch with you.
One day I'll be in UK.
Yes, and then you can come to Bloodstock with us.
Hell yeah! All right, buddy. I will. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, better get back to work. Yeah. Thank you very much. Take care.
See you, buddy.